In this video, I'm going to continue working on the metal frame structure. Right now I have the walls in place and I'm going to begin working on roofs. For the two prior ones, we have a hip structure, a hip roof and a gable. This one's going to be slightly different. I'm going to make a roof that has a profile similar to this diagram, where there's one shed roof that's high and a shed roof that's low. And in between the two, there would be something called clear story windows, so light could enter into the space. So the first thing that I'm going to do is add a level. I won't be using level 3 for this one. Instead, I'm going to create one that's called level 2. So under the architecture ribbon, I can click on a level here and I'll just create a line across here. It's going to default to the next available number. And I'm going to change this to 2.5. And yes, I'll change all the views to correspond with that. And I'll change this to 15 feet. Okay, and then I can click on that level datum and drag it over so it goes through the structure that I'm going to be working on. Okay, now I'm ready to make a roof. I'll make one of them that's associated with level 2, which is this datum. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that, and then I'll make the other one that has an association with level 3, or rather level 2.5 that I just made. Before I do that, though, I'm going to need to create a new roof assembly. So from level 2, I'm going to go to roof, and I'm going to look for a roof to use as a base for this one. It doesn't really matter which one I choose. Probably one of these two is best, insulated 2 or insulated. If you have just the default insulated, let's use that one. That's probably one that you have in your file. And I'll click on edit type. Okay, and let's make a duplicate. And we'll call it, just to use some of the terminology here, metal rafter. I'm going to make ours 12 inches. And we're going to do a different kind of roof here. It's called a standing seam roof. Okay, and I'll click on OK. And we'll start talking about different roof types in the upcoming chapters. Okay, so here we go, and I'm going to change my structure. Okay, instead of an asphalt shingle, I am going to assign a material to my metal roof. Oops, aluminum. There we go. All right, and I'll click on OK. Now, these standing seam roofs come in a variety of materials. Aluminum is perhaps the most common, and it's pretty economical. But maybe you've seen copper metal roofs. Those are very expensive. And then there's a number of other metal types too. Okay, in addition to the layers that I have above the core, let's see, I just created a new one, but I'm going to move it down. This one is going to be something called gypsum sheathing. So I'll let it search for that material. Let's see, let me try again. Okay, didn't find that in there. So I think what I'm going to do, we may change this a little bit later, as I've searched for gypsum, and I'm going to perhaps make a duplicate material that will serve as the gypsum sheathing. So I'm going to cancel this. And I'm going to say OK for the time being, and I'll come back and continue to make some revisions. See, non-membrane layers should have thickness of not less than 1/32. So let's see here. Let's delete this for now. and we'll come back. Say okay, and apply and okay. All right, now to create a new material, I'm going to go to Manage Materials. I maybe need to double check. Could have been that my search term was incorrect. No, it didn't come up. Okay, so let's do gypsum here. Click on this and yeah, so what I want to do is right click on it, duplicate material and assets. And I'm going to call this gypsum sheathing. Okay, and apply and okay. So it'll have the same kind of material properties of the gypsum wallboard, but it's a different type of material for exterior application. All right, now I'm going to go back to my metal standing seam roof and go back to the edit type, and I will insert a layer, move it up, and here I'm going to put in gypsum. Now I may have been able to do this directly from here, so I didn't need to go to manage, but regardless, this is another way that you can create new materials. Okay, and I'm going to assign a thickness of 3/4 of an inch to this material for now. Okay, and then I'm going to insert another layer. This one will be below the gypsum sheeting. And we're going to make this rigid insulation. Click on it. Okay. All right, now for the thickness of this one, it's going to be double what we had for our wall. Now, if you think about it, heat rises, a structure is going to lose most of its heat as heat rises. So the roof surface is the one that's the most vulnerable. And that's why we want to have so much insulation. But actually, this is not enough. And so we will also be adding insulation to the core layer. Okay, so our next material layer, we'll plywood sheathing, 5/8 of an inch. We're going to change this to 3/4. 5/8 may have been fine for that, but that's okay. For our structure here, I'm going to click on this, and it's going to name it the same as this one. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I could duplicate right in here. We'll just call this duplicate material and asset. And here I'm going to change it to metal joist and rafter, and it will also have some batt insulation. So I'm going to say okay here, apply and okay. Right, and my thickness here, I'm going to make it a little deeper than what we have. Okay, and I'm going to change this to 12 inches. Right. And I've got on the interior side, we want, instead of having a dropped ceiling, that would be flat. We want our ceiling to be like a sloped high ceiling. So we're going to add the drywall directly to the underside of that. So I'm going to insert, I'm going to move it down, and we'll call this a finish layer, and we'll look up gypsum wallboard. Okay. And we'll make the thickness of this ceiling material 1/2 inch. Okay, so that should take care of the roof assembly. All right, apply and okay. All right, now I'm ready to add the roofs. So I will start again from level 2. I'm going to go to architecture. Oops. So I'm already in this roof creation mode here. I'm going to click on the rectangle here. I'm going to make my offset 2 feet like I had done with the other roofs. And I'm going to set my pitch. I'll do that after I get it in place. So what you need to do at this point would be to click on the, guess it sort of doesn't matter if you go to the outer dimension here. I'll click on that here, whether it's 2 feet from the slab or the actual perimeter wall. And then I'm going to snap. So I'm on the column line. Now remember, we're going to have 2 separate roofs here. So I'm zooming in here and I'm clicking on the exterior face along the column line. Okay, and I'm going to click on the check mark. Let's say don't attach for now. And what you'll see is by default, it's going to create a roof that is hipped, like what we have before, but we don't want that. So I'm going to go to level 2. I'm going to click on that roof. I'm going to edit the footprint. And then what I'm going to do is click on this side right here and uncheck the box that defines the roof slope. And I'll do the same thing here. And this side. I want to define the slope only with this one right here. So I'm going to click on that. Instead of a 9 and 12, just be steep, I'm going to make this, oops. Click on that again. I deleted it accidentally. We're going to make this 4 and apply it and hit the check mark. All right, let's just say don't attach for now. All right, now let's take a look at this in 3D before we make that second roof. So there's the first one. And then I'll proceed with making the second one. I'm going to make the second one from, we're going to make one change to the roof level. I'm going to go to section 1, and this has to do with how this will sit on the wall below. Maybe it'll be better to show you this later. Yeah, so you can kind of see how the resolution of the framing will be. Let's go back to level 2.5. And right now, I can't see anything below. I'm going to type in VR for view range and make these unlimited so I can see all the way below. Say okay. And I'll go ahead to the architecture ribbon and create a second roof. 2-foot overhang, and it's going to be associated with level 2.5. I'll go to the rectangle tool, and I want to re-enter the 2-foot offset for my overhang. And see here, this is our exterior corner. And I'm going to go and allow these to overlap. Now, it's going to be a little hard to sort of see this, but this is the perimeter wall. And this is the column line. That's the point that I want to select. Okay, and hit the check mark. And I have this, okay, you can see what happens is offset it to the wrong direction. So I'm going to repeat that. I will X mark this, and I'm going to repeat the steps again and make sure I get those that offset in the correct direction. Okay. Rectangle slope. We go back, roof, rafter, click on the rectangle tool. My offset is going to be 2 feet. And I'll go back and choose that perimeter spot. There we go. That's how I want it to be. And I'm going to come along this line right here till I hit column line. And I can go ahead and edit these slopes the same way I did the last one. I'm going to keep this one right here. That one will be a slope of 4 and 12. This one here, I'm going to delete slope. This one here, delete the slope. This one here, delete the slope. Check mark. And let's take a look in 3D how this is coming out. I'm going to minimize the ceiling plan since I'm not working there. Okay. So there you can see, let's take a look at it in the south elevation. All right, at some point we're going to bring these up so they attach. Before we do that, we're going to add some structure down the middle of this building. But for now, this kind of completes that part of adding the pitches for the roofs.